Hello and welcome to my workshop. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. Helping out someone here locally. They got in touch with me. I need a little bit of help finishing up their project and getting it in a little bit more scale, and then having fun going down the trail. So what we're doing with here is the SCX-10-2 kit, as well as a C10 lexan body, and we're going to be taking several different parts from Shapeways, grills, and lights, and then adding in some drivers, as well as getting a couple other items finished up for them. So let's get started. So I'm trying to get the interior pulled out, and it looks like it comes out pretty easily, but actually it was really tough to come out, and I was afraid the paint was going to rip. Somebody put it in here with a double-sided tape. So I'm going to be adding a couple of the RC Nerds parts from Shapeways, and one of those is a grill. So I'm carefully cutting out the grill, and so I can place the 3D printed part in from the back side. So I'm also using some of the RC Nerds tail lights and reverse lights. So just getting some holes drilled and getting the holes opened up enough to get those parts in. These parts are really nice. Shapeways does a really nice job of getting these things printed. The one downside is they're getting a little bit expensive now. So if you're buying a couple little things here and there, it's not too bad. But like to do this whole truck, it would just be outrageous to print everything out. So just a couple key things here and there, and it really adds to the look. So here I'm trying to transfer the shape of the lens over to the back so I can get that cut out. There's just a lot of going back and forth, Dremel tool, cleaning it up some, and trying to get that thing just right, and get inserted from the back. It's got a little flange on it, which makes it really nice to get that thing installed. You really can't tell when it's done because it just kind of pops in place. Okay, so I think I got a pretty good start at getting this little C10 body, kind of a little more scale items added. You can see I have holes cut out for the tail lights as well as for the grill, and I found a little piece that I'll be able to use for the gas cap. So as you can see, this was a little bit of a pain to cut out, but I just slowly worked my way around that. And what you have is this really nice piece from Shapeways, and RC Nerds is the designer, and that slips in, and then you'll shoe glue that in the back. I think I'm probably going to end up adding some pieces here and there. I'm not really sure, but it should be pretty easy to do that if necessary. Like I said, I found this little lens. I think this is from a JK Jeep because it's got mud on it. It's one of those mud ones, and it's just like the front marker light or something. And I just drilled a little hole right there in the gas cap, and I'll plop right in. I'll paint that chrome or whatever, and that'll give a little bit more dimensionality to the body. The rear, these weren't that difficult. It's just really time consuming, but you have these tail lights that pop in from the back, and they'll also get shoe glued in, and so the round one goes right below, and so you'll be able to actually put LED lights in that, and then use the lenses to go over that. Starting to come along pretty nicely, so just continue on. So I'm going with Velcro to put the interior back together, and there's a couple of nice things about that. One, you can actually get it back out, and two, it just doesn't, if you do need to get it back out, just don't run the risk of destroying the paint underneath by having that tape pull it off. So now I'm trying to get a some kind of a mount for the rear, and I'm going to use Velcro again to attach the body. And so there's a mount that I'm going to attach across the shock towers, and then in the back of this body there's a cutout that's flat and raised up into the bed for the shocks, and that's going to make a really great place to put some Velcro in and have that match up and have a nice hole in the rear. So the interior does foul on the transmission just a slight amount, so I have to cut that out some. But I want to try to get the front mount as close as possible, so I can get a better idea of exactly how much to cut out and where to cut out for that where that transmission hump hits into the interior. We're just cutting out as little as possible to clearance around that transmission, and that was really the only place it was hitting, so it worked out really nice. So the RC Nerds lights come with provisions to add in LEDs, so I'm putting in some LEDs for the headlights and the tail lights. And so here just using basically a resistive dropper, which is really nothing more than resistor, doing a quick calculation to come up with which one you want based on the voltage supplied and the specs for the LED, and then it's just a matter of wiring things up. Yeah, this is not a really hard thing to do. It does take some time, but it is fun for me just to sit there and just go through and build these wiring kits and get things wired up. It's one of the more fun parts of the build for me. So here I'm using a crimp tool to install plugs on the end of the LED wires coming off the body, and then also I cut off the ends that come off the axial speed controller that would normally feed their lights, and I'm just replacing it with some JST plugs. Okay, so this little project is really coming along nicely. I've able to get the front end cut out for where the grill goes, trim away the bumpers front and rear. Also got the tail light holes cut out, and remounted the interior. So originally it was mounted with double-sided tape, and what I did is put it in with Velcro so you can be pulled in and out, and just slips in and nicely like that. I've also created a spot back here with some Velcro in the front that matches up with these little blocks I made, and so now the the body can just sit right down on to the Velcro and give a nice nice firm mount for that. The lights were made up, red and a warm white in the front, and those will go into these 3D printed parts from RC Nerds. So this is the grill, and it's still got some work to do on this, but the tail lights and the reverse lights, and I've also have a little cap here for the fuel cap right here on the side. So a lot of good stuff coming along. Still a lot more to go, but I'm making good progress. All right, so let's finish that up. So using the Molotov ink to spray paint the parts that I got from RC Nerds, the grill and the tail lights, and get those things chromed out. And then afterwards, you put some all-clad clear on that, and they really do hold up fairly well. So the taillights in the rear were a little bit more challenging. There was just not a whole lot of space between the side and getting those taillights in, but they do fit. It's just a little more work. So I wanted to put a wooden bed in it with chrome slats in between, and so here I'm just masked off the rear and then painted that chrome. So now taking the light kit and just gluing down the wires and getting everything kind of hidden and tucked up out of the way. So here I'm using a glue that dries crystal clear and just putting a couple drops around the outside of the lens where the lenses go in, and just popping those in place. And like I said, once it dries, it'll be crystal clear. So I used a printer to print off this blanket, and it's a paper has a cotton infused to the paper, so 8.5 by 11 fits in your standard printer. I found a Navajo style blanket I liked and just put that onto a Word document and literally just sent that to my printer with this special paper in. Once it's printed, then you just peel the cotton off the paper, and now you have a blanket. It actually worked out really well. Okay, so I've got the chrome parts glued in. I've done that with shoe glue. So in the front, we have the grill with the lenses and two LEDs in there. We have the gas cap on the side, and then the lenses in the rear, and just painted this top part red. Both the front and back clear lenses are just clear coated. The interior is pretty much as complete as it's going to be. I put in the driver, passenger, and a blanket in the center. And the blanket in the center is there to camouflage the hole I had to cut in order to clearance around the transmission. So a little bit of the transmission sticks up to the seat, so I just cut a square in it, glued the blanket down on top of the seat, and you'll never know that hole was there. The steering wheel still has to go in, but I need to get that painted, and that can be dropped in at any point. It's no big deal. But you know, it's starting to really start to take shape. You know, got it firmly mounted on the Velcro. Got most of the 3D printed parts done. You know, here are the wires hanging down. I still got to kind of fix those up in there, but those go to the tail lights and the headlights, front and rear. I think the next thing we'll probably work on will be the bumpers. So let's get to that. So the customer wanted some real metal bumpers. So here I'm just taking some 3/4 inch square tubing and slicing that down and getting that ready to be manipulated into a different shape that'll emulate the bumpers that are on these C10s. So what I do is I make a successive cuts where the bend needs to be, and just take the grinder and just slice into it, bend it, slice into it, bend it, and keep working until you get a nice bent radius. And then you can come back with a silver solder and just basically silver solder all those little pieces back together, and it's plenty strong with what you need. So it's hard to tell here, but the bumper does have a little bit of a rake from front to back, and that was a little bit challenging, so I had to place it into the vise and hammer the metal over and bend things around. But I think it was worthwhile. You know, the metal is so thick that I was able to come back with a flapper disc on my angle grinder and really smooth this thing back down and get it to look pretty good, and then just basically successive amounts of sandpaper to get it smoother and smoother until it's ready for paint. This bumper is just being mounted up to the stock front bar that goes for the regular bumper, not straight through the holes like you would have for the round part that comes off the bumper. What I did is went up through where the set screws would go. So now doing the same thing for the rear, you know, getting my measurements out, trying to get everything lined up. Ended up somehow got off measurement on this and didn't have enough metal. So luckily I was able to kind of splice this thing back together, and like I said, when you put that silver solder, it works just fine. So that right there is the point where I actually damaged my camera, shot sparks right at it. Luckily I have a UV filter, so it's just a $6 replacement part. A little bit of pitting on the screen, but it wasn't too bad. You see I put like a drop down section in the center and where a trailer hitch will go, and it actually gives clearance for putting a scale license plate in later if you like. Okay, so extremely happy with how these bumpers turned out. Right now they're in primer. Got the front and the rear complete. Still a good bit of filling and sanding and finish work before I'll put a coat of black on, and that will be the base coat for coming over the top of this with the Molotov chrome, and then you know, clear, put a clear, all clad clear coat on to seal that in. And these bumpers are really nice looking. The front, even though it does look just square, it does have a rake to it, so it's about a 10-degree rake back and on the side, and then kind of contours the front. And then on the rear, I have the drop down so that a license plate can be mounted right here. I think that'd look really nice. You could even, if you wanted to, drill a hole and put a trailer hitch. I might end up doing that too. So I think both the front and rear bumper are very happy with that. Just a couple more details to finish up. I've got to do some details in the bed. We have the chrome painted for the rails, but I'm waiting on some wood vinyl stickers that will go in between to make it look like a wooden bed. I'm going to make some kind of a wooden box to cover this hump that is basically for the shocks, and just to kind of make it look more realistic and not have this weird thing in the back. But other than that, it's really starting to come together. All right, well, let's just continue on. So getting on to some of the final details, like I said, I wanted to put the wood bed in, so I painted the bed chrome, as you saw earlier. And so now I'm taking a wood grain vinyl that I ordered and just cutting some strips down and placing it in between the upright rail. So the end result gives you a look of wood with a metal strip in between. So here I'm just making a wooden box to cover up that hump. And that hump is where the shock towers go in, and also has the Velcro for holding the body on. So just a little quick styrene box, cover it with some actually real wood pine. There is from a dollhouse, and just cut the slats out, glue them on, weather a little bit, age it, put some stain on, some clear, and then you're good to go to double side tape that thing to the hump, and you can't even see it then. Here is me aging up the box and just taking random things and beating it, sanding it, and trying to make it look weather worn. Apply a little bit of stain, and then let that dry, then clear coat over top. Alright, so all finished up with this little project. Just kind of go through some of the things. We made the bumpers in the front, and I ended up taking some Molotov chrome with some all-clad and cleared those. Did the same for the rear bumper and added a little ball hitch. We have the tail lights, reverse lights, and headlights in the front. in the bed was added some vinyl material that kind of mimics or looks like wood, and then actually made a box out of real pine wood that fits over the hump where the shocks go. There were 2 drivers added, and a little Navajo blanket added in the center, and that was added to cover up the hole. Had to be cut so that the transmission can fit up into the body a little bit. The other thing I did here was to put some matte clear coat on the black. I left the top white and shiny, but just give it a little more realism and not have it so bright and shiny like a toy. And that's pretty much it. Just a couple little simple mods here. There's still so much more that could be done here, but I'll just let the owner take care of those if he wants to. But this should get him down the trail and having lots of fun. Got a lot of cool little projects coming up. Until then, we'll see you in the rocks.